wrote my first book, Fit Over 40, I came at it from an athlete's position. I came at it from being a bodybuilder and all this. And I was saying things like ripped abs and, six pack and being sliced. And that did not go over well at all with the audience.
Hey there, and welcome to a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hausman, and joining me today is a brand new rock star, and he wears a lot of hats. He's a copywriter, he's an entrepreneur, he's an AI pioneer whose work has quietly shaped how the world buys things online. He's also a copy coach and a fitness author. Jon Benson, thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks, Kirby. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So in doing some research about you, I was fascinated when I read that you invented the video sales letter. So obviously that's a format that's generated billions of dollars in sales. What was sort of the insight behind it? And did you have any idea it would reshape digital marketing the way it did?
Well, no clue whatsoever. It was definitely the mother of invention necessity, right? The impetus behind it originally was I wanted to see if people could start reading my, at the time, pretty bad copy on a sales letter. I was getting about 6% read throughs on, the heat mapping on sales pages. So you can see how much the sales page is being read. And even really good sales pages were getting like 8 to 12. And so I thought, all this work goes into copy. Why not, what if we could force somebody to read most of it? And a friend of mine had just done an offer at the time that was super famous in the, very funny, called The Rich Jerk. And he made people go through 12 different steps to read the entire sales letter. Something as compelling as that, I figured, well, that's kind of interesting. I don't think that a weight loss book would do that. But what if I did something similar with video? And it was perfect because I was about to shoot a YouTube video and I didn't want to. I didn't shave, kind of like today. And I was like, I don't want to get on camera. And so I decided I would just do the script and then put a picture, I think, which is just dumb, right? And so I'm like, well, okay, I can't just put the picture. I'll just put the words, like the highlight words I'm saying. And what I ended up doing, and I didn't remember this until last week, which was really funny because I told the story 1,000 times, is I was going to put the highlights of the words on each screen, like the kind of like the synopsis, right? And I ended up just dumping the entire script in, and then in my PowerPoint stuff. So I just kept the script and said, I'll just keep the words on the screen. And so then that's why I got a little clever. I said, well, maybe I can highlight the power words, the NLP power words and stuff. And that became the first video sales letter. And that's how it became what it did. It was just a kind of a lark. Yeah.
That is so interesting. It is fascinating. Like you said, necessity is the mother of invention. And sometimes it's like the way we come up with ideas, it is, it just comes from our own inspiration. So
yeah.
You've talked about humanized AI, and I'm curious about that. The idea that reaching out to everyone is actually becoming a problem. So why is broader reach leading to weaker results?
So it's broader reach leads to weaker results across the board all the time. And the reason why is very simple. You can try to talk to everybody in a very generic tone, in a very generic way, or you can try to talk to a very select group of people and make them feel like you've known them all your life. Which one do you think is going to be more apt to read your sales letter or your ad or your next email? It's not even close, right? And so we encourage people to, from day one, don't try to sell to everybody, sell to a select group of people. And we took that a step further with Benson, the whole route that we took with AI, which is how do we humanize this by taking what worked for me as a copywriter. And I wrote so much in the fitness space, in the relationship space, in the martial arts space, things I knew a lot about, things I did in my own life, things I struggled with in my own life. So I didn't want to write just from I have 3 degrees in this and all that kind of stuff. I think that has its place, but I think people are more interested in hearing I used to be this and now I'm this. I used to do with this and now I'm so I had those kind of stories in all 3 of those areas. And so I thought, okay, well, why not write from that position? But really where that comes from is writing from a place of my core values, because I value certain things. I made certain changes in my life. And so that would just seep into my copy. And so people would read it and go, man, I felt that letter was written right to me, right?
Yeah.
And in reality, it wasn't that I'm a good copywriter, but it's like I was more or less just telling my own stories and writing my own values. And so I thought, what if we could train our copywriting AI, Vincent, to actually understand core values of our clients? So they could come in, fill out a survey. We could dissect what the values are, figure out what they are. We don't ask people what their values are. We just ask them a set of questions that we know will uncover their values related to marketing or personal if they want. And then from there, Benson can weave it into every word of copy. And it's the copy just changes subtly. It's like if you value love and freedom, it doesn't say, hey, since you value love and freedom, you're going to love my new product. It's very subtle. Like, what are the phrases that somebody that values freedom, for example, would never use or would often use, and how would they use it in a sentence related to joint pain or related to dog training? Like, that's very sophisticated AI programming. And when I say programming, quotations, it's not programming, it's learning. But that's what we basically did, and that's now available, which is really cool. We did give people a free access to that if they want to check out to find out what their buyer. We call it a buyer profile. So your buyer profile is the people who are already aligned to your values. So think of it another way. Wouldn't you love to have your ideal buyers, like the people that never refund, that never complain, that automatically love you, that just read and go, oh, that's it. That's the person I want to have dinner with. That's who we want you to help you to attract. There's a lot of them out there, and I would start there. And so we have a freebuyerprofile.com, and you can check out get that for free. And so we go walk someone through that whole process, find out which words you should use and which phrase you should avoid.
Yeah, it's so funny, John. I think that this is one of those things that we as marketers, we bang that drum a lot. And I think that so many times entrepreneurs are just like, yeah, I know that. But man, you can't dial in the ideal customer profile too much. Like it is, as most people are not doing it nearly enough.
Right.
And I've seen actually think marketing should repel some customers, which I think is really interesting. So can you explain that philosophy and why filtering out the wrong customers leads to more sustainable growth?
Yeah, there's two factors going on here. One is the fear of missing out. So if you go to a website and you say and you want to go to some event, right? And so let's say it's a marketing event. So let's get close to home. And it's held by Perry Belcher or Frank Kern. These guys are friends of mine, so I can make fun of them. But and Frank says, he gets on there and says, hey, okay, this is only if you don't make over $1 million a year, you're not invited. I'm sorry, but this is only for everyone in the room is 7 figures or more. Well, there's two things going on here. Like you're missing out on something really important because only these people are allowed. And then there's this feeling of jealousy, right? Well, I want to be in the room. But there's also the people that do make more than 7 figures a year. They're going, oh, this is for me. And all you did is say, this is only for you if you make over 7 figures. You didn't have to sell anything. So
Right.
just saying who you're targeting to, it can elicit that. You could do the same thing with anything, but you don't have to like make it so like it's only for this. But I'll give you an example in my my former field of weight loss and fitness. It's like I would say, look, I wrote this letter specifically for women over 45 who are mothers. Man, talk about when you hear that and you're or 35 for your mothers, and you hear that and you're like, or 45 for your mothers, and you hear that, I'm 40, I'm 47, and I'm a mom of 2. This is perfect.
Yeah.
Your mind just goes like this. And
Yeah.
so I don't care about the other buyers. There's millions of moms over.
Yeah, I love that. That's super good. Okay, final sort of question for you, and then I want to ask you about one other thing. But for business owners, like if they're listening to this and they're like, look, I buy what you're selling here, but they want to start aligning their messaging with the right audience instead of just chasing everybody. So, but where do they begin?
I'm going to be a little self-serving and say go to freebuyerprofile.com because that's where we get you the free buyer profile. Start there. It helps to understand what is your ideal buyer saying and responding to. How did they phrase the problem? Like I'll give you a perfect example of this. When I wrote my first book, Fit Over 40, I came at it from an athlete's position. I came at it from being a bodybuilder and all this. And I was saying things like ripped abs and six pack and being sliced and that did not go over well at all with the audience. And so I learned that I did a survey and I said, I thought my audience would be mostly male. And no, my audience was mostly female over the age of 65. So I am
Wow.
like 25 years younger talking about something I could care less about, and they still bought the book. And so imagine how more books I would sell, how much more books I was. I want to get this right. So I would have sold a lot more books if I would have just got the marketing angle down and known the avatar was saying slim belly. They were saying, I just want a slim, trim belly. I would never use that phrase as a guy, right? And
Right.
so that's the really obvious things, but there
That's
are
a great
so many
example, though.
subtle things, man.
That's a
So
great
many.
example, though, is how you can, because once you know who you're talking to, you speak differently. And it's funny because I think sometimes people push back to that, but it's like you speak differently to your kids than you do your grandma, right? You speak differently to your buddies than you do your wife. It's just, and you might be saying the same thing. You're the same person, but you just communicate the message differently. And I think
Right.
that's exactly what you're saying, right?
That's exactly what I'm saying. And I'll say one step further. I think you owe it. It's an ethical responsibility to do that. You would never talk to your 5-year-old the way you talk to your 15-year-old. You would say you have the same general message, but you change the way the message is delivered. And if you didn't, it's an unethical position, because if you're talking to a 5-year-old about like, look, you know your responsibilities as an adult, well, that wouldn't make any
Yeah.
sense, right? So,
Right. Yeah, that's a great example. Now, before we got going, literally before we hit record, you were telling me you've had some interesting success with AI. And I really kind of want to give you the floor to talk a little bit about it, about how you are. I'll let you talk about it, Jon.
yeah, it's very interesting. Well, okay, AI has been the rage. I get that, and as the guy that has been at the forefront of this I started in 2010. If that tells you
Wow.
anything, with software and copywriting, and how to weave VSLs into software. We started early nascent AI in 2017. So that's forever ago in AI years. That's like
Right.
dinosaur years, right? And I was the first copywriter in to be trained in Chat 3. This is like they a company reached out to me, $1 billion company reached out to me and said, "Can we put your VSL inside our this is a Chat 3 prototype?" And I said, "Sure." I know it would never work, and so they got 60 seconds of it, but that led to Benson because we figured out some ways that we could make it work. But all of that being said, is I've been doing this a long time, and so the thing that I'm the most excited about right now is tying all these pieces together. Like, copywriting is super important. I think it's the most important thing in a business. I'm a little biased, but the other thing is implementation. And so what we've been doing is like working on how do we use AI rather as a tool, as a partner. The framework, it's not a distinction without a difference. It's a major distinction. When you think of AI, if you think of Chat GPT, it's never going to be a business partner. Claude's never going to be a business partner. But we basically created a way to essentially clone yourself, to take what you do well and your passion for the business and dump it into models that serve as echoes of you. And they do the work that you don't want to do, and they do it 10 times faster. So that's what I'm the most excited about right now, because that's what we're seeing the largest growth in my company, for sure,
Yeah.
because we got the bottleneck out of the way. The bottleneck was me.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's only so much in a day one person can do, no matter how energetic they are. And this is turned into like almost like a game. It's like playing a video game, except this video game makes you money rather than cost you money. So it's kind of fun.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, Jon, you said where people can go to learn more. Can I give you a
Yeah.
chance to say that again real quick?
Yeah. So if you go to youcloned, youcloned.ai, that's my free PDF that shows you the stack I'm using, shows you the tools I'm using. It tells you how much this whole thing is going to cost you. Basically, it's a couple of $100 a month max to get the cheapest, fastest, smartest employee you've ever had. And it's pretty cool. So check it
Yeah,
out. It's cool.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Jon, this has been great. I feel like I've got a little master class on some of this stuff. So I appreciate you taking the time. We'll have to do it again sometime. Okay.
I'd love to, Kirby. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Jon. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.